Welcome back to our mapping. Last time we left off with a massive hydrogen bomb being launched onto China. Now China is going to launch one large massive offense. So the first thing they do is they're able to crush all these little lines over here of armies, and they're also starting to take over um territory that was caught during the nuclear blast, and they take all this. So yeah, now they have all this back. They then use a lot of their troops to try to make a massive push into Korea, which is successful. They also with another army, um they make a landing into Japan and slowly push up. With this army over here, decides to make a big old push into what was even here? God dang it, Vietnam. So they make a big push into Vietnam, and so yeah, they take this part over. They also take out this entire area in Tibet, and they also make another push around here to split the Tibet into even more pieces. Although Tibet is able to recover, and they are able to add this little piece back in. So China, it's not really looking too good. Also, by the way, forget that nuke thing I said. They try to send over a nuke into USA, but it's dropped. They try to send another tactical nuke over, and it's bombed. But they are finally able to hit the capital with a tactical. They're able to hit the Pentagon, actually, not the capital, the Pentagon, with a tactical nuke. They also decide to nuke Mississippi because because USA is probably a little bit happy that they atom bombed Mississippi. Who even liked Mississippi, to be honest? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's just Mississippi bad, lol. Also, by the way, seeing this whole thing, the UK decides to also launch an invasion onto China. The rest of NATO does not want to get involved because whilst China is still getting kind of crippled right here, they really do not want to anger China because that could end up screwing them in the long run. So with this little thing in the Philippines, China landed a little thing right here, and they also took this area, and they have another push down here. The only bad thing about this invasion, though, whilst also getting a little bit more of Vietnam and splitting it in two, they had to sacrifice a lot of their materials and men. China originally started with about 2.6 million. I'll put about 2.8 because I'll make it a little easier on them. With about 2.8 million army men, now they're only around to 1.99 million, 1.96 million. Although, so they end up putting a front line right here after making a little bit more of a push. And now there is another big stalemate that goes on for a few more months. There are multiple attempts here to break the siege that do not work, although there is some minor advancing. Just very minor. Like a few feet. They also decide to try to pull a Hong Kong right here, and they try to launch an invasion. Right here to encircle them, but this obviously doesn't go too well. Really? My fan just had to do that? Wow. Anyways, whilst in a little chaotic battle around here, um, South Korean troops accidentally fire at Russia, which was not intended. Russia is now in the war. This isn't good. But although one good thing is that Japan is able to take this little island up here, and there's also some minor pushing into Russia, which they really couldn't care less about. Like, who even cares about this area? Although to keep them in line, um, South Korea decides to make a desperate push into North Korea to hopefully secure some nukes. And although they're not powerful, they could still work against Russia. So they launch a massive attack, and they find about 22 nukes, which they all send to Russia, considering how dangerous Russia will be in this war. So they all send the nukes, and they're not really that powerful, but they do a lot of damage. They make about 10 nukes right here. and the rest are shot down. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So that's 10 nukes dropped on Russia. Russia's obviously pretty freaking mad, but luckily, they're able to knock down and hit all the nukes, except for the one that they weren't able to do. Yeah, Tibet surrenders. Yeah, I'm sorry, Tibet, but I needed China to do something in this. So yeah, Tibet has fallen. One blue nation is out. So China decides to take all this area. India decides to finally declare war, and they start. India decides to declare war on China because they hate them. They also hate Pakistan, so why not? They also claim some land from China, which is rightfully theirs. So they decide to launch an invasion into China. And they're pretty good at it too. Until Russia becomes Russia. Yeah, things don't go too well if you get Russia in a war. Let's just say all that, okay? Let's just say it. So there's also some rebellions that are put down over here, and this little area, China makes another little push into here, but at the same time, the blue team makes a massive push into this area. So everyone is once again in a bit of a stalemate, but the Philippines are able to split this little part in two and take this part back. Vietnam also eventually reunites with Vietnam, and they make another landing over here, which is much more successful. But the bad thing about this is while they were doing this, China made a little bit of an invasion over here and was able to take some land. So with this whole thing, every side is in a bit of a stalemate. Russia decides to send a massive Tsar-Bomba nuke over to the United States. But they have to be very, very careful about this because it is very noticeable and is likely to get shot down. They are planning to send it over to Washington, D.C. and causing about this much radiation. Or I would say this would be a bit more accurate. But thankfully it is shot down, although there was a tactical nuke sent right here and here, while two others were shot down. So yeah, this whole war is terrible. It's having loads and just loads of casualties. It's basically a World War III. So Vietnam decides to make a last desperate push through with the help of the Philippines and parts of Korea, and they are almost able to split China into two until a very small little force blocks them the little last line that they need to make the push. I mean, and take over, the split China in two. And they also are pushed back a little bit here with this, considering that they were busy with that. So now the side is stuck in a stalemate for about half a year, let's say. But Japan's I'm fixing that. Japan's factories, and especially Vietnam's factories, are making a butt ton. And also America and UK's factories are making a butt ton of stuff and tanks and planes and all that stuff to launch a massive invasion into China. And after about 7 to 8 months, they are finally ready for it. They have a massive push through here, and they are able to take parts of Manchuria, which they end up very easily taking over. And they encircle it, and it seems to be going very easy until they reach this little part, which is still being encircled, but is providing some very fierce resistance. It still exists, but doesn't really. They also launched a big invasion into Russia, which Russia has not really been doing anything because they don't want to lose their men because they're also still fighting Ukraine. So they make a big push into the Siberian area. And they kind of just take all this. Sorry for Russia not being totally included on the map. I wanted to, but you can't get everything you want. Russia decides to end their war and because it's starting to really hurt them in their invasion of Ukraine, because they're losing supplies.